The wind came screaming off the plains, dragging dust and frost across the morning like the tale of some angry ghost. Mary Ellen stood alone near the wagon, her shawl clutched tight, the wool doing little to stop the cold that sliced through skin and bone. Frost kissed the edges of her copper-colored hair, and her breath curled like mist in the bitter air. Behind her, the men were talking low and fast, like they didn't want her to hear, but meant for her to understand all the same. "She's a burden," said the youngest, a narrow-eyed Missouri farm boy whose name she hadn't bothered to learn. "Ain't right to risk the whole wagon for one hog-fat woman." A few chuckled. Not all, but enough to make the laughter sting. Mary Ellen didn't turn. She had learned to stand still when the barbs came, like a tree in a storm, roots deep, limbs unbending. Their words were bullets, but she'd stopped bleeding long ago. The leader of the group, a lean, hawk-nosed man named Everett, stepped forward, brushing snow from his coat. He didn't look her in the eyes. "Supplies are low. Weather's worsening. We can't spare the horse feed or the food." "What are you saying?" Her voice was steady, flat. He looked past her, over the hills of Wyoming territory that rolled white and silent into forever. "You're strong. You'll last longer on your own than most." That lie, so small and sweet it almost didn't hurt. "You're leaving me." No one answered. A single crow screamed from a bare tree limb. Then the boots started moving. The wagons creaked. Wheels turned. The sound of metal on frost, canvas snapping, hooves stamping. Susanna passed close. Close enough to speak. Mary Ellen's only friend in the company. Once, they'd laughed at night by the fire, sharing memories of the East and the men they didn't miss. Now, Susanna kept her head low. Her gloved hand brushed Mary Ellen's elbow, but just for a heartbeat. "I didn't vote for this," she whispered. "You didn't stop it, either." Then she was gone. The wagons crested the rise. No one looked back. The silence that followed wasn't quiet. It roared. The wind moaned like some lost soul in the canyons, and the snow began to fall heavier. Mary Ellen stood still for a while, as if expecting someone to change their mind, to turn around, to shout, "Wait, we were wrong." But no voice came, only the crunch of departing wheels and the cold. She moved at last, slow and methodical, her boots sinking into the drift. The trail was already vanishing behind her. Every step felt like it was being erased by the storm. She found shelter by nightfall, a shallow hollow beneath a rocky overhang. Not much, but the wind couldn't reach her there, and it was dry. She gathered branches, broke ice to reach brackish water beneath. Her fingers bled from the effort. She didn't stop. That first fire was small, weak, just enough to push back the dark. She didn't cry. Crying wasted heat. She had food, some salted meat, a hard biscuit she'd hidden, and half a can of beans. She rationed it out. Thought like a soldier. Thought like her father. "Out here," he'd once said, back in Tennessee, "survival ain't about size. It's about what you're made of." Then he died of fever, and no one took her in. Not for long, anyway. She'd survive that. She would survive this. The second day, wolves came. She saw the prints first. Wide, padded marks circling the hollow. Later, she saw eyes glittering in the dusk, far off, then closer. She kept the fire stoked, tossing green pine needles into it for the smoke. She held a stick like a spear and muttered curses under her breath. "Come closer and I'll skin you alive," she growled. The wolves didn't understand words, but maybe they understood tone. They stayed back. For now. On the third day, hunger crept in like a thief. Her stomach clawed at her spine. She tried chewing pine bark, drank melted snow. She found a bird, half dead, feathers twisted, and cooked it over the fire. It tasted like ash and sorrow. She ate every bite. Time slipped strange in the cold. Days bled into nights, nights into a dreamless gray. The fire became her god, feeding it, protecting it, begging it not to die. One morning, she didn't know which, she woke to silence. No wind, no snow, just stillness, and a sound. Hooves. She scrambled out of the hollow, grabbing the stick-turned spear. Her heart thumped so hard it hurt. She expected bandits, wolves again, or worse. But it was a man, alone, on horseback, wrapped in a dark duster, wide-brimmed hat low over his brow, a rifle slung behind his shoulder. His horse, a tall gray gelding, looked near as lean as he was. He pulled up short when he saw her, one hand going to the rifle, but not drawing. She stood tall, blood dried on her knuckles, soot streaked on her cheeks. She didn't flinch. "You alive in there?" he asked. His voice was low, gravel and tiredness. She didn't answer right away. "Depends who's asking." The man nodded, like he respected that. He dismounted slowly, hands always visible. "Ain't here to rob you, or hurt you. Name's Samuel Hayes." She didn't lower the spear. He reached into his saddlebag, pulled out a pouch, and tossed it to the ground between them. "Dried venison. Some jerky. Share it, don't want it back." She waited until he was mounted again and riding off before she touched the pouch. It was warm from his saddle. Real meat inside. No poison. She ate it slow, eyes wet but not crying. Samuel came again the next day. Said nothing. Sat across from her fire. Drank from his canteen. She didn't offer conversation. Neither did he. When he left behind a tin of coffee. On the third visit, she asked, "Why do you keep coming?" He shrugged. "Because you're still here." "That means something?" He gave a slow nod. "Yeah, means you've got fight in you." She looked away, jaw clenched. "They said I wouldn't make it. Said I was a drain. That I'd slow them down. They were wrong." He said it like it was fact. Like sunrise and death. They sat in silence a while longer. She asked, "You lose someone?" He didn't answer for a long time. "My wife." That was all he said. He left early that day. Left behind a flint striker and a tin cup. The next night, she dreamed of laughter, wagon wheels turning, and woke sobbing. She covered her mouth and cried into her palms until the cold dried the tears. When she looked up, he was there again, across the fire. He said nothing. Neither did she. But when he handed her a piece of cloth, thick wool, better than her shawl, she didn't argue. The days that followed passed faster. The cold still bit, but she had warmth now. More than just fire. Samuel helped her find roots to boil, showed her how to bait a snare. She taught him how to twist tree bark into cord. He listened without pride. One morning, she caught him watching her as she skinned a rabbit. Not in judgment, in admiration. "You ain't afraid to get your hands dirty," he said. She laughed, low and dry. "I stopped being afraid of dirt a long time ago." There was a flicker of something between them then, just for a second. Not romance, not yet, but respect. The kind you find only when death has circled both your camps. They built a lean-to together, stronger than her first shelter. She started to feel her body again, not just the hunger and fatigue, but her muscles, her strength. She didn't think about what she looked like. For the first time in a long while, it didn't matter. On the 12th night, the wind howled harder than ever, and they had to huddle inside the lean-to, close for warmth. His shoulder brushed hers. She didn't move. "You never told me your name," he said. "Mary Ellen Callahan." Strong name. It had to be. He paused. "They really left you to die?" "Yes." A moment passed. "I wouldn't have." The fire snapped between them. "If you didn't know me then, I know you now." She met his gaze. There was no pity in it. No judgment. Just quiet certainty. Like the look of a man who'd buried things, but never forgotten them. She didn't know what to say, so she said nothing. But when he handed her the last of the coffee, and she took a sip from the cup they now shared, she realized something strange. Something terrifying. She wanted to live. Not just survive. Live. And that meant letting go of the bitterness. Of the names. Of the people who'd left her behind. It meant choosing something new. Someone new. The wind outside screamed, but inside the lean-to, it was warm. For the first time in weeks, she didn't dream of snow or wolves or boots walking away. She dreamed of a man with empty eyes finding her, not to save her, but to see her. And that was enough. For now. The thaw came slow, like the breath of something waking after a long and bitter sleep. Trees that had stood like frozen sentinels began to drip, tiny rivulets tracing the grooves in their bark. The snow melted into thick mud, and the wind lost its bite, but not its voice. Still it whispered through the branches, as if the land itself remembered every scream, every silent plea that had gone unanswered. Mary Ellen sat near the fire, sleeves rolled, arms smeared with rabbit blood. The meat sizzled on the spit, but her eyes weren't on the flames. They were on the man across from her, Samuel Hayes, the widower with the broken voice and the storm behind his gaze. He didn't talk much, didn't smile either. His kindness came in gestures, a new snare, a sharpened blade, the way he always checked the perimeter before he slept. But his eyes, they were hollow, not cruel, not cold, just emptied of something, something vital. Whatever woman he'd lost, she'd taken a piece of him when she left this world. Mary Ellen hadn't asked. Not again. Some griefs were buried too deep to unearth without breaking the bones around them. Still, she watched how he scanned the tree-line like a hunted man, how he slept lightly, with one hand always near his knife, how sometimes when the fire crackled too loud, he'd flinch like it was a bullet. She knew that kind of hurt, knew it like she knew her own name. One evening, as the sun died over the hills in a blaze of orange, he finally spoke without prompt. My wife's name was Clara. Mary Ellen looked up, waited. She had hair like corn silk, voice like church bells. His hand rubbed the side of his jaw, rough with stubble. She died birthing her second. Neither of them made it. He stared into the fire a long time, like he expected it to spit up their faces. I buried them both on a hill near Fort Bridger. Then I rode. Been riding ever since. Mary Ellen nodded. Not in pity, not in sympathy, but in shared understanding. Grief don't care about size or strength. It carved its way into you and don't stop digging. He looked at her then, truly looked like seeing her for the first time. You lost someone too? She hesitated. Not one person. Everyone. Piece by piece. He nodded. That's worse. They didn't talk much after that, but the silence between them softened, grew companionable, like the hush of a chapel. Days passed. They moved camp, following the game trails. Samuel taught her to track elk. She showed him how to cure meat with ash and salt. The wilderness had stopped trying to kill them outright. Now it just watched, like a thing waiting to see if they belonged. It was near the river where everything changed. They'd crossed the Green River, water high and biting cold, nearly lost the pack mule. Mary Ellen held fast to the reins, while Samuel lashed together a crude raft. They fought the current for hours, bruised and shivering by the time they reached the far bank. That night, she stood by the water alone. Moonlight rippled on the surface, and she saw her reflection, round face, wild hair, eyes sharper than they used to be. Strong, but still carrying every word, every look, every sneer that had once tried to reduce her to less than human. She bent down, took a stone, skipped it across the water. It jumped twice, then sank. Samuel approached from behind, silent as always. She didn't turn. You were right, she said. They didn't kill me. No, they tried, though, with words, with silence, with how easy it was to leave me behind. He stepped beside her. His coat brushed hers. You're still standing. That's all the answer they'll ever need. They stood there a while, shoulder to shoulder. And for the first time, her guard slipped. Just a little. Just enough to let him see the woman beneath the shell. I don't know how to stop carrying it, she whispered. All the hate, all the weight of it. You don't, he said. But you can carry it different. She didn't know what that meant. Not then. But she wanted to. That night, she lay beside him under the stars. They didn't touch, didn't speak. But she could feel the warmth of him, close enough to chase away the cold. And it terrified her, because something inside her was waking. Something that had gone to sleep a long time ago. Hope. 2 days later, they saw smoke. Not from their fire. Not from any they'd made. It was thin and high, curling from behind a rocky outcrop. Not natural. Samuel tensed, eyes narrowing. Travelers. Or worse, he said. They approached slow. Careful. Rifles ready. The camp was crude. 3 men, ragged clothes, hard faces. Bandits, by the look of them. One was missing part of an ear. Another had a pistol strapped to both thighs, like a walking executioner. They didn't see Mary Ellen and Samuel at first. The bandits were too busy tormenting a young boy they'd caught. A scrawny thing, no older than 10, tied to a tree, blood on his lip. Mary Ellen's breath caught. We can't leave him. Samuel didn't answer. She turned. Sam. Still he said nothing. His jaw was tight. His eyes, those empty eyes, stared at the scene with something unreadable. Please. Finally, he spoke. If we go in loud, the kid dies first. Fast and brutal. Then we go in quiet. He nodded once. You follow me. No matter what. They circled wide, through the brush. Moved like wolves. Silent. Swift. Samuel hit first. Rifle, but to the back of the nearest man's skull. Mary Ellen charged next, catching the second bandit off guard with a rock to the temple. The third drew his pistol, but Samuel was faster. One shot. The sound cracked through the canyon. The man fell without a sound, blood blooming like a flower beneath him. It was over in seconds. Mary Ellen rushed to the boy. Cut him loose. He whimpered, flinched from her hand. They killed my ma, he whispered. Took me from the wagon. We got you now, she said, pulling him close. Samuel stared down at the bodies, expression unreadable. Mary Ellen rose, breathing hard. We can't leave him. No, he is no one. Samuel didn't reply for a moment. Then, he does now. They buried the men shallow. Took what supplies they could. Samuel said little. Just cleaned his rifle, checked the sky. That night, the boy, named Eli, slept curled beside Mary Ellen like a pup seeking warmth. Samuel kept watch. She watched him watching them. Something had shifted in him. She could feel it, like a gear finally turning. Like a man who'd seen his ghosts and spoken back. In the days that followed, they traveled slow, careful for Eli's sake. The boy didn't talk much, but he watched everything. Learned fast. Took to Samuel like a lost calf to a trail boss. And Mary Ellen, she found herself smiling more. Not wide, not often, but real. The laughter returned, low and cautious, like deer at the edge of the clearing. And with it, something deeper, something dangerous. Attachment. One night, Samuel finally spoke the thing hanging between them. I was a dead man walking when I found you. She stirred the fire. You saved me first. He shook his head. No, I just saw you, like you really were. Strong, fierce, unbroken. Broken things can still move. He looked at her, eyes no longer empty. Just worn, weathered. You're not broken. You're forged. She swallowed hard. I'm not who I was, she said. Not the woman who came west. I'm something else now. So am I. Silence fell. Then Eli stirred in his sleep, muttering. Mary Ellen reached over, brushed the hair from his brow. Samuel watched her with that same quiet intensity. And something clicked. Not romance. Not yet. But the foundation of it. The trust. The partnership. The knowing. As the fire crackled, she turned to him and said the words she never thought she'd say again. We could build something. His breath hitched. Out here. Where else? She smiled. No one left to tell us we're not enough. He didn't speak, but he reached out, slow, deliberate, and laid his hand over hers. Warm, real, alive. In that moment, she knew the man with the empty eyes had chosen her. Not because he had no one left, but because she was worth choosing. And in the echo of that decision, the world felt less cold. Less cruel, more like a place where something new could grow. Even here, even now, especially now, the rain came like judgment. Hard, cold, unrelenting. It beat down on the cabin roof like hooves of war horses, each drop a drumbeat of something coming. Something worse than the wilderness, worse than the hunger, worse than the silence that had haunted them all winter long. Mary Ellen stood at the window, watching shadows move through the trees. They weren't deer. They weren't harmless. She could smell on the wind, smoke, sweat, gun oil. Men. Samuel was already at the table, laying out the rifle and 6 bullets he hadn't fired since the bandits weeks ago. Eli huddled in the far corner, hands pressed to his ears, though he hadn't been told a thing. He knew. Children like him always knew. They tracked us, Samuel muttered, checking the chamber. I figured they would. Mary Ellen turned, her voice tight. The bandits. Samuel shook his head. Worse. He didn't have to say it. She knew. The ones who'd left her. The men from her wagon train. The ones who'd judge her by her waistline and not her worth. They thought her dead. Thought they'd erased her. But a man doesn't like being wrong, especially when pride's on the line. And if word had reached them, rumors of a big woman who'd survived the snow, who now rode with a sharpshooter and a boy they never saw die, they wouldn't come out of guilt. They'd come out of spite. She moved to the stove, grabbed the knife. Her hand didn't shake. Not this time. Samuel looked at her. You don't have to fight. Her jaw set. You think I'd sit and let them take everything again? His eyes met hers, and something passed between them. Something unspoken and steel-bound. She wasn't the same woman they'd left, and she wasn't going to run. A branch snapped outside. 3 shadows now. Closer. Samuel pulled Eli toward the trapdoor to the root cellar. Stay here. No sound. No matter what. But, do it, boy, Mary Ellen whispered. We'll come for you. Eli's lip quivered, but he obeyed. The trapdoor closed with a dull thud. A heartbeat later, a voice rang out from the trees. Well, hell, look who ain't dead. It was Clint Grieving. Thick-necked, cruel-eyed. He'd been the one to laugh the loudest when they left her. The one to spit at her boots, like she was some beast of burden. She hadn't seen him since the morning they pushed the wagon on without her. I knew it, he called. I said it, didn't I? Big cow like that ain't easy to kill. Samuel's grip tightened on the rifle. Mary Ellen didn't flinch. She stepped past him, threw the cabin door open. Rain poured down like the heavens wept, but she didn't care. She walked into it like it was baptism. Look at you, Clint sneered. Fat as ever. She stood tall, still standing, and armed. Another man stepped up behind Clint, Thomas Pike. Stringy, pale, always hiding behind his gun. And a third, younger one, maybe 17. Nervous, twitchy. 3 against 2. But the odds didn't scare her. Not anymore. What do you want? She asked, voice steady. Clint chuckled. Want? Just wanted to see it with my own eyes. The sow who made it through the snow. You've been telling lies, girl. You and that dead-eyed husband o' yours. Samuel stepped out beside her, silent and calm as a storm ready to break. Say that again. Clint grinned, showing broken teeth. Didn't know she was spoken for. Figured nobody'd want her. Samuel lifted his rifle. Mary Ellen didn't blink. She's mine, he said, voice like gravel. She's earned every breath, every mile. You leave now, or I swear to God. A gun fired. The shot cracked the air, and the younger man dropped his pistol in surprise. But no one fell. Just a warning shot. Samuel had fired it into the mud, inches from Clint's boot. Next one wouldn't miss. Clint's smile vanished. This ain't your land, he spat. Ain't your woman. You got no right. Samuel's jaw flexed. I've got every right. Because when you left her to die, I saw her strength. I saw her fight. You walked away from gold, and I was man enough to claim it. Mary Ellen stepped forward, knife still in hand. You call me names. You think I'm weak because of how I look. But you're the ones who left a woman to die. I lived. That makes me stronger than any of you ever were. The younger man, barely more than a boy, looked away, ashamed. But Clint's eyes turned to hate. You think you're better than us now? You think that gun makes you brave? Samuel cocked the rifle. No, but it'll make you dead. Clint lunged, and the world turned to thunder. Samuel fired. The bullet caught Clint in the shoulder, spinning him to the ground. Blood splashed across the wet grass. Thomas drew his pistol, but Mary Ellen was faster. She threw the knife. It caught him in the thigh, and he screamed, dropped the weapon. The boy stood frozen, weaponless, too stunned to move. Mary Ellen grabbed Clint's collar and yanked him up, strength born of fury. You think I forgot what you did? You left me for dead like I was nothing. You are nothing, Clint hissed. She struck him across the face with the flat of her hand. I am more than you could ever carry in your coward's heart. He spat blood. Go ahead. Kill me. Samuel stepped behind her. No. Let him live. Let him go back and tell the story. Tell him all. Mary Ellen nodded slowly. Tell them she lived. Tell them the woman you mocked carved her place out of death and cold and silence. Tell them she was chosen. Samuel's hand found hers. Not as a rescue, as a promise. Tell them she was mine. She let Clint fall to the mud. The others dragged him away, bleeding, broken, humiliated. And the 3 of them, Samuel, Mary Ellen, and the boy, stood in the doorway of the cabin, watching the past retreat into the trees. Rain softened to drizzle. The clouds broke. A sliver of sun broke through. Later, they sat by the fire, steam rising from their clothes. Eli leaned against Mary Ellen's side, too tired to speak. Samuel cleaned his rifle, hands steady. Mary Ellen looked at them both, then at the fire. I don't want to keep running. Samuel nodded. Then we don't. I want to build something. Plant roots. His voice was soft. We can. Here. She looked at him, her eyes shining. You mean that? He met her gaze, nothing but truth in his face. I've never meant anything more. Eli stirred, rubbing sleep from his eyes. Will we be safe now? Mary Ellen kissed his head. We'll make it safe. And in that moment, she knew. The frontier hadn't broken her. It had remade her. And when the firelight danced on their faces, she realized the truth she'd waited a lifetime to believe. She was never too much. She was just too much for the wrong people. But for the right man, she was everything, and she would never be left behind again.